Hello aqua friends, welcome to my channel. My name's Nicole and today we are going to do a beginner friendly project, and we don't need any reference photo. We just need an outline of a couple of leaves. I am going to be using gold leaf with some adhesive to enhance our leaves, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be working on the techniques of wet on wet. So let's get started. So as you see here, I just have a simple shape of a maple leaf that you can trace out on a small piece of paper. And the first thing that we have to do is wet our leaf really well. There is a lot of nooks and crannies in the maple leaf, so you do want to take your time to go about wetting the leaf. So I'm going to speed up this part. Keep in mind that I have wet this leaf for probably a good couple of minutes for sure, but you know, you don't want to watch me just wet a leaf, so that's pretty boring. So getting on to the color part of things, once it's nicely wet, I'm dipping my brush into my favorite warm yellow, which is the Aussie Red Gold from Daniel Smith. And notice that I'm not saturating the whole area with the yellow. I kind of want to do a camo type of transitional maple leaf where we are starting, it's turning colors and it's getting in some of those brighter reds, but it's still in that transition where you have all these gorgeous colors. So beside the yellow, I do have some transparent pyrrole orange, and I also am using Quin red. So since our leaf is nice and wet, we have a lot of time to add in these colors. It's helpful to have a piece of paper towel handy if you need to wipe off some of the paint. You can have different strengths of paint, so some could be lighter, and you can have thicker paints in some areas where it'll be darker. It is nice to have those contrasting areas. I'm also going to use these darker red colors to draw in the veins of the leaf. So I'm just barely using the tip of my brush. Notice I haven't had to change brushes at all. And I'm just using a very delicate light pressure in order to draw in the veins. Putting in the stem. Now I do have some sepia in my palette, so I'm adding in a couple of little imperfections, little dotted areas, like you would see on a real leaf. Now another thing that we could do is we can lighten up some spots to represent some of these veins by doing a controlled bloom. And what I'm basically doing is using a damp script liner brush, and before your paper dries and it starts to lose the sheen is the perfect time to go through the veins that you want to be a little lighter, and it will lift the paint a little bit. Once your paper is completely dry, I'm just drawing in a shadow on one side of the leaf. I wanted to add in some gold leaf, and I thought this would be a really pretty touch to our gorgeous leaf here. So the adhesive will go on with a kind of purplish blue hue, and when it dries clear, but it remains tacky. And that is how the gold leaf sticks to the glue. So to protect your brush, what I did was I did cover my brush with some liquid soap, and then I dipped it into my adhesive. That way it's going to protect the bristles of my brush. It'll make it last a lot longer, and I'll be able to reuse it for these purposes. After you're done with the glue, you of course want to clean off your brush really well in some soapy water. So once you have the glue on, you do have to let this dry. I would say a good half hour, and you will see the color change happen. If there's any areas that still kind of look like that purpley blue color, it's not quite dry, and it is worth taking your time and letting the adhesive dry. Now for the gold leaf, I just put on the sheet, and then you want to press down where you did put that adhesive. Then I try to take off the sheet as delicately as possible here to try to preserve the extra gold leaf. I do keep a jar of all the bits because it can be reused. So one package is going to last you a really long time. They do sell it on Amazon. That's where I do get my supplies, and I do have that information in the description of the video. You could go ahead and take off your tape, and that little project is complete. This is a picture of how it turned out, and isn't that gorgeous? So the oak leaf is much simpler. I'm going to use some beautiful rusty browns and burnt orange colors for the oak leaf. And we are going to do the same technique where we're working wet on wet. And this one is actually going to be a lot easier. It's not as intricate as a maple leaf to get around all those nooks and crannies. The first color that I've added is raw sienna. With the raw sienna, I am dipping my paintbrush into some of those brighter orange colors and mixing them with burnt sienna. I also have that transparent pyrrole orange. So some areas I'm going to leave lighter, some areas I'm going to have them darker, because that contrast between the colors is going to make your leaf a lot more interesting. I am bringing in that jewel tone color of that really bright yellow that I absolutely love. Mixing up a darker shade, I do have some sepia along with my burnt sienna. I'm starting to trace my veins with this color, and I'm just using the very tip of my brush. I do love to add some darker colors and blemishes along the edges of the leaf. So notice how you kind of build up those colors slowly, starting off with your lighter colors and then getting into the more richer orange and brown colors. With a very thick mixture of my sepia, I'm adding in some tiny little dots here and there along the edges and the veins of the leaf. So once you're happy with that, if you still want to lift some paint for the veins, now's the perfect time while your paper is losing that sheen, and you take a damp script liner brush. Your brush has to be fairly on the drier side, or you do chance making a bloom on your work and ruining the effect that we have. Now, another tool that we can use to do the outline of gold is a ruling pen. And you just dip the end of this ruling pen into the glue. And as it runs out of the glue, you obviously have to keep dipping it back in there. But I just take my time and I follow along the edges of my leaf with the glue. When you're all done with that, you will need to let that glue dry. Like I said, it kind of looks purpley blue in the can, and when you first put it on, it will dry transparent and it will stay tacky. Once the glue dries, the same thing, we're going to apply the gold leaf, and I'm applying all the chunks that I need that I got from the last project we did. And then you're going to kind of push that down. You can use a stiff brush to lightly tap at it and to brush off the excess. And behind you have this beautiful encased leaf in gold. It really does add a special touch to these fall leaves. Once you're all done, you could remove the tape, and there is your oak leaf, encased in gold and just so pretty. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you're going to give it a go, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.